Hey everyone, welcome back to Weather on the Go. Hunter here, and we're talking about winter. It's not giving up. We got a lot of winter to go here through the rest of February. We're going to look at the atmosphere from the top down to understand why we're seeing the trends we're seeing for winter continuing and why a lot of folks are just saying that, winter's over, all this and that. We're going to give everything that we need to know in this forecast. So subscribe to the channel, follow along with all my detailed, accurate weather breakdowns. Like the video, give it a thumbs up, and share this video with friends, family, and on social media. I definitely appreciate it. Let's look here at our precipitation, more so our snow that we have seen over the past 5 days. This takes us from February 1st all the way to yesterday, and notice the heaviest of the snow has been across the Pacific Northwest, all the way down here even into the Sierras. We've had some snow as well in the upper Midwest, some here into portions of the Great Lakes in the Northeast as well. Notice the snow line pretty far north, and that has to do with a lot of the warmer air sticking around across portions of the United States. The polar vortex right now is not working on our favor, but in just short order, this will start to bring some cold air and dislodge some of the coldest air on the planet toward North America, and winter will be back on. Notice it's starting to stretch here. As we go into tomorrow, we're seeing some warming over here as well to the east of these couple of lobes from the polar vortex. And by the way, the strongest lobe of the polar vortex is closer to us in North America. So that gives us a little reason to believe that colder air is really in our backyard and it's not that far away. In fact, let's look in the short term, like looking into the weekend, tomorrow and into Saturday, we have mild air. It's around, right? It's from Texas all the way over here into the southeast, but the cold air is in our backyard. This might not be the coldest air on Earth, but you don't need a lot of cold air to produce wintry weather. And notice in the Pacific Northwest, we did show you the past 5 days, they've seen a lot of snow. That has to do with a lot of the cold air. We have the precipitation moving in across the west. It overruns the colder air, and then we turn that rain over to snow, especially in the higher elevations. And some of that has trickled eastward too, into the Dakotas. Minnesota, Wisconsin has seen some snow, and even over into the Northeast. See how it's cold over here as well. Let's take a look at our temperatures here in the short term. Here's what we saw this afternoon for highs. We had 70s to the south across Southern California, Southern Nevada, much of Arizona, New Mexico, West Texas, even some 80s in West Texas. Coldest of our air, again, up here into Montana. We had single digits for highs. Our wind chill values were below zero, especially northeast Montana, into the 10, 15 degrees below zero range over there. Looking at the central United States, pretty cold as well further to the north, especially our friends in North Dakota, Minnesota, and northern Wisconsin, seeing the single digits and the teens. Wind chills up there, really around 10 to 20 degrees below zero this afternoon. A really cold, wintry day. Notice here across the south, our afternoon highs have been in the 80s for much of Texas, and even over here into the Gulf Coast states. A lot of 70s and 80s to work with this afternoon. Notice as we go into tomorrow morning, we're going to see temperatures cooling down into the 60s, so still a mild air to start the day from Dallas over there to Shreveport, Jackson, and even Montgomery as we start the day tomorrow as well. Looking here at the east, we got mild air in the southeast, Florida, a lot of 80s, and even the 80-degree line creeping up there towards Savannah, Georgia, Jacksonville, Tallahassee, and notice the colder air again further to the north, up where we have the deeper snowpack into Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, into Quebec, even Ontario. A lot of these areas being pretty cold, and our wind chill values up here are really kind of sticking around the 0 degree mark, if you will, in a lot of these areas with the deeper snowpack this afternoon. Where do temperatures go tomorrow morning? Well, we're going to see temperatures arrive into the single digits and the teens further up to the north around the Great Lakes, the Northeast, places like that, while remaining in the 50s and 60s further to the south. Now, let's look at the atmosphere again from the top down. So here is the 500 millibar height anomaly. This basically shows you the mid-level of the atmosphere. Big ridge, right? We have a big ridge up here into Alaska that's forcing cold air down. It's not forcing it down to the Gulf Coast just yet, okay? It's battling this warmer air to the south. This is mild and also moisture-laden warm air, I do want to note. And this is going to bring an active storm track right on the gradient here. You see this white from Colorado all the way towards Lake Michigan here, and even in Lake Erie, if you will, into the northeast. That is our storm track as we go into the weekend tomorrow and going especially into Saturday and Sunday. So Here we go this evening. That storm is already appearing across the west. We already see some heavy snow moving in this evening across the Sierras, heavy foothill rain across California there, into the Sacramento Valley too. And we're going to start to see that moving across the Rockies. A lot of the northern Rockies up here, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, a lot of heavy snow as we go into Friday. And then as we go into Saturday morning, watch this system over here in the Midwest. We need to watch for another ice storm threat, snowstorm to the north, and some heavy rain, severe weather on the warm side. I think the biggest threat out of this will be snow and then the ice. I think the severe weather will be low end with this storm, but definitely something to monitor is the freezing rain potential here in the pinks across Indiana, Ohio, over here into Pennsylvania, and some cold air damming too Saturday evening across Maryland, northern Virginia, the panhandle of West Virginia, maybe even Delaware and southern Jersey, and then snowfall not too far up to the north, and then that'll zip across as we go into Super Bowl Sunday. Yeah, some Super Bowl Sunday snow for the Northeast will be possible. Looking at the snowfall, this is the national blend of model approach. Going through Monday, February 10th, you can see some pretty heavy snows, mainly for the Sierras here. Could be picking up anywhere from around 30 to 50 inches of additional accumulation between now and, again, Monday, February 10th. Heavier moisture in the form of snow up here in the northern Rockies, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming as well, and some snow as well in the ski resorts around Salt Lake City, outside Denver there, in western and central Colorado too. Now, looking downstream, this system will be producing some heavy snow across the upper Midwest, so our friends in the Twin Cities, La Crosse into Green Bay could be seeing a decent 3 to 6 inches, possibly even more than that. This is just an average. And then over here into Michigan, at least 2 to 4 inches across most of the central part of lower Michigan. And then heavy snow is Boston, really between now and Monday, February 10th. Could be seeing around a foot of snow there. And that's, again, conservative. Some areas around the Boston area could be seeing a little bit more than that, closer to 15, 20 inches between now and the 10th there of February. Looking at the ice component here, there is going to be an ice storm threat in between as the warmer air is overrunning some of the shallow cold air, and as those raindrops fall through the shallow air aloft that is warmer, it's going to melt those snowflakes to raindrops, rain all the way down to the surface, and then refreeze on contact. That's what we call freezing rain, and we could even have some sleet mixing in as well. It looks like the most significant part of this, unfortunately, again, will be for portions of Pennsylvania, Maryland, and northern Virginia, and it's taken a very similar track to our last system. Now, I do want to note, even though the National Blend of Models doesn't show ice accumulation much for eastern Iowa, northeast Missouri, or northern Illinois, and even our friends over here in southern Wisconsin, doesn't mean we can't get ice. We definitely could. The HRRR model at 18Z today is actually putting a pretty good swath of freezing rain here late morning Saturday into the early, even mid-afternoon hours, and this could add up in places like Rockford, Janesville, Milwaukee, perhaps on the far northern end, over here into Chicago, and then into Fort Wayne, South Bend as well. So we're going to be keeping a very close eye on this in the coming days. And then looking here again, back at the stratosphere, as we go into the middle of next week, we're going to see a polar vortex split. And what this means is we're having one lobe of the polar vortex splitting, going towards Russia and Siberia, one splitting moving south toward Canada here, and we have warming going on in the stratosphere, and this is actually going to force that split. And some of the coldest air in the stratosphere will linger and kind of lag a week to 2 weeks out. So when you see a split like this, it'll be the second half of February where we're affected by that coldest of air. And notice some of that is trying to come south as we go into next week. You can see it is going to succeed across the northern plains and the upper Midwest, and then a bigger push of cold air as we go into later next week, and that could be tied to a pretty strong storm system. A lot of models and a lot of data does suggest by the middle of February, the 14th, 15th, 16th, maybe even 17th time frame, we're watching for a big cyclone that could move across the middle of the country, and that could bring in some cold air on the backside, really begin our pattern, and then we're going to see some pretty heavy snow, freezing rain, even some severe weather with it. Here is the ensemble guidance. This is your European ensemble. Very wet look here in the eastern United States, suggesting a very active pattern. Here's the GFS ensemble, the American guidance. It basically is a mirror image of what the European ensemble is, so basically right over top each other, as you can see here. And then looking at the operational guidance, let's look at the European model from 12Z today. We're pretty dry on Monday. Not really anything big going on. We got the cold air to the north. That's where we see some snow showers. We got the warmer air to the south. That's where we got some rain showers. Nothing too big. Then as we go into Tuesday, we try to get a winter storm going in the Ohio Valley Valley. Some drier air from our strong Arctic high up here in the upper Midwest could draw into the system and kind of make it a little bit more disorganized. We'll have to wait and see how much dry air gets caught into the system. And then we just kind of get a train of some snow across the Midwest here, the lower Midwest that is, like Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, and then over through the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, and then a bigger snow system later next week, the 12th, 13th, into the Northeast with maybe more coastal rains. We'll have to see how north or south that system gets, something to watch. And then the European model brings a big cyclone across the middle of the country. And this could be the big one that brings in all that cold polar vortex air, if you will, from the stratosphere down into the mid-latitudes. And this really could bring some cold air on the backside. Looking at the GFS model as well, this is the operational guidance, kind of in that same ballpark. We got a winter storm, a little bit more organized, doesn't draw in a lot of dry air like the European model shows, and it's a little bit further south, so more of the I-95 corridor later next week would get the snow. But it has the same general idea, maybe a little bit further east with the cyclone, but other than that, again, it draws in that cold Arctic high on the backside. And then here is the Canadian guidance, the GEM model operational. And notice again, high confidence in a couple of winter storms mid to late next week, and this could bring some heavy snow. And notice a lot of these are focused on the Northeast. And then here comes the big cyclone by the middle of February. Again, this could be the big one for some big snows, bigger ice, and even some severe weather potential. To take away from this, what we're talking about into the second week of February, it's going to be a snowy one. It's going to be a cold one. Winter is not over. Look at this signal here on the European ensemble guidance across the Northeast, and that does include the I-95 corridor. Boston, Hartford, New York City, Philly, all the way down to Baltimore, Washington, D.C., and then over here toward Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Chicago, Peoria, Kansas City, St. Louis. Pick your spot on the map. Wherever you see blue here or purples, pinks, you're going to see a pretty decent chance of some snow. And you look over here as well at the GFS ensemble guidance, and it's really not that dissimilar. So we're pretty confident in an active weather pattern. Obviously, the north-south parallels to this. How far north or south the snow gets is a little uncertain. How intense it'll be is uncertain, but the footprint is there, and it looks like the Midwest, the lower Midwest, the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, and the Northeast will be really jackpot areas to watch for snow. And then you want to take it a step further, here's the Canadian ensemble guidance, and it basically, again, is a mirror image of both of the European and the American ensemble guidances, and it's basically showing that same area. So confidence is high in winter returning in the middle here of February. Now, as we go into the second half, look at how big the lobe of the polar vortex gets. We have warming all the way over the top here, really from the Aleutian Islands all the way around here to portions of Russia and Siberia, all the way over into Scandinavia. And that is going to force all that cold air from the Arctic straight down into North America. This could be our coldest period as we go into the third week of February. And this could be a lot colder than what this map shows. But this is just a trend for that 5-day period between the 17th of February and the 24th, the third week essentially, and this could squash that ridge of mild air that we've been seeing across the southeast for quite some time down. And this will come as well with some weather, right? We're going to see an active storm track. That colder air, depending on how far south it goes, it's dry air, so it's going to push that storm track a little bit further down to the south. We're going to have storms originating up here into the Pacific Northwest towards Washington State, Oregon, and Idaho. They're going to dive southeast as that cold, dry air makes that storm track further south. And then this could be an East Coast type of system, so that is something to watch into the third week there of February. Now, if you want to take this through the rest of February and the first 10 days of March, this is the snowfall output the European ensemble guidance is showing. Very heavy snow across the west, very heavy snow across the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and then some pretty heavy snow as well in the pinks, all the way back into the Great Lakes, the Midwest, whether that's the upper Midwest, the lower Midwest, the Ohio Valley, a lot of these areas seeing it. I am a little bit more concerned about some drier weather, though, across portions of Nebraska, Kansas, down to Oklahoma. Drought will be developing probably into the later portion of February. If we can't get any bigger winter storms here, that will be something to watch in the long term. Hey, if you take any information out of this video and you did enjoy it, make sure to subscribe to the channel, follow along with all my future weather forecasts, turn on the post notification bell for those, like the video especially, and also share this video with friends, family, and on social media. I really do appreciate it. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Thursday out there.